All right, hope you're all doing well out there today. Let's talk about risk. It's been a little while since I talked about risk. I have talked about it in previous videos. Risk occurs in our daily lives, whether it's our personal lives or at work, and there's a lot of different ways you can look at risk. Since my primary focus is on quality, a lot of times folks don't really think of risk when it comes to quality. Usually the first thing at work that they think about is safety. And even though I have many times tried to explain to folks about quality related risks, the focus is still on safety when we have our quality management reviews. I don't know why. But let's talk about it. So, we have risks when, we're just driving to and from work every day. Those of us who aren't working remote at home. There's risks in our daily lives, of course, but from a business standpoint, you have plenty of risks that are not safety related that will impact your company in a negative way if something were to occur. Right? So as a business, you're there for your customer, your client. You want to give them what they want, when they want it, the way they want it. So what impacts that from happening, from whatever you're doing? If you're providing a service, if you're creating something for them, what will impact that? Now, a lot of companies will subcontract. They can't do the work. They can't do something in particular, so they go out and find someone else who can. That is a risk. You're passing that risk off to another company, but your customer, your client is still going to hold you responsible. So it's important to keep an eye on your subcontractors. It's a risk. So you have to ensure that they also have eyes on risk, that they're keeping an eye on the different things that can impact them from giving you what you need for your customer and or client. So what are some risks that a company may have that's not safety related? Because there's a ton of safety risks, and that would be handled under a safety plan and ways of mitigating those risks. But from a quality standpoint, what will impact you performing the service or creating the product for your customer? Weather. Weather is one. Weather is a big problem right now, everywhere, all the time. It seems to be. It's either incredibly hot, which can impact work, especially if you're in a non-air conditioned workplace. That can drastically impact the both the people doing the work and the machines. Right. So weather is a risk. So how do you mitigate that? It depends on the circumstances. It depends on where you are in the world, and how weather will impact you and how you want to mitigate it. Right now, for this video, I just want to bring up the different types of potential risks you might have. Some others might be transportation. So you might have to transport either people around or parts, materials, equipment. So transportation is a risk because anything can happen out there on the roads, on the railway, in the air, right? So it's a risk to identify for mitigating actions, right? Having the right people, having enough people, those are two different risks. You need to have enough people, and that seems to be an issue in a lot of locations. Is hiring the anyone, because there's a lot of companies out there hiring. There's a lot of jobs out there. There's a lot of openings that companies have. I see funny videos, entertaining videos out there all the time concerning, workplaces being understaffed all the time, and it's real, but it's a risk because if you don't have enough people, Can you get the job done for your customer or client? If you can't, that's a problem, right? And if you don't have the right people, that's also a problem, because not everyone can be hired for certain things. If you have certain jobs that require certain requirements from a person, not everyone can do that. It depends. There are trade certification requirements and licenses and other requirements that people might need to perform the task, the job, right? Which kind of goes into another risk is maintaining those trade certifications, licenses that certain individuals might need. It's also on them to maintain their own credentials, but it's also on you as a company to keep an eye on that. So that's a potential risk. So these are only a few risks. There's a whole bunch out there that you can identify when you are looking at your operation, and you should have it documented somewhere. These lists of risks and how you're going to mitigate them, because there's plenty out there where you can have them pop up in your workplace. You can control them, and there's also sometimes where it's external that will creep up and cause you some problems, and you still have to find ways of mitigating it. And again, it depends on the business and where you're located. You might have regulatory requirements and government entities that are a risk as well, with different requirements they may have that impact you. You have to find ways of mitigating those. But I've only touched on a few. There's a lot of risks that aren't safety related. I always try to get folks to understand that. Don't always think about safety when you think risk. Look at your operation. What is a risk that can cause a problem with how I am providing my service or product to my customer? All right, and you jot it down, and you train up on it, and everyone should know what they are, and how those risks can be prevented or mitigated, at least actioned upon. And as a business, you'll be stronger having acknowledged those risks and having a plan to action when needed. All right.